Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me all right. My name is Esther Lavielle, and we are going to go ahead and get started with November's Keys to Success series. And in this month's topic, we're going to talk about what's new at QuestionPro. And on our agenda, we will discuss, changes to the survey creation experience, the ability to be able to preview questions to determine whether you want to upgrade to the next level of the license or not. We'll also look at Net Promoter Score, what is it and how to get started, because that is now available with the corporate license. And we'll also look at new logic, how to apply show and hide logic to page breaks, and also how to run validation of branching logic within your survey. And we'll do a quick demo of what everything looks like, and we'll do a Q&A session. And if you're logged into Zoom, what you can do is go ahead and post any questions that you might have, and I'll make sure to review the chat box that is in Zoom and answer any questions that you might have. So let's go ahead and get started here. So the very first thing we want to talk about is what's new. If you are on a free license or on a professional or corporate, and you're potentially looking at some advanced question types, what you can do now is you can, instead of clicking on it and trying to add it and getting an error, now you'll be able to go ahead and preview a question, and it will break down what exactly it is, how it's applied, and a quick example. And if you're interested, you can click through and it will tell you to contact a salesperson, or you can pull out your credit card and upgrade then and there. So it's pretty simple to do. You just have to hover over the question itself, preview, and then it'll take you to the next page. If you're really interested, it'll prompt you to email sales or begin contacting people through the chat line to get started. So that's really, really simple. The reason why we did this is because we had people that were trying to add things and they couldn't, and they just couldn't understand. They didn't know what was and what wasn't available. So our product team really did a great job making this crystal clear when you're adding a new question or considering adding a question, what is and isn't available then and there. And I find the experience to be really nice and very cut and dry, and it makes sense, especially, if you don't need advanced question types, then you can stick with the basics. But if you are needing those or considering them, you have the chance to preview what it potentially looks like. If you want to trial what that is, you have a lot of different options that you can get started with a salesperson. So that's what we want to tell you. The next thing I also want to let you know is that we now have the Net Promoter Score available on the corporate license. About a month ago and prior to that, it was only available for Team Edition and Enterprise license, but now with the corporate license, you can run a Net Promoter Score. And what exactly is Net Promoter? The Net Promoter Score is a mathematical classification of a customer's brand loyalty, and usually it's measured within a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, and it provides a simplified yet highly effective vision of a provider's brand popularity and shareability among its consumers. And Net Promoter Score is a very good tool. It's very easy for people to understand, and the question typically looks like this: on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend our products and services to a friend or colleague? And based on what you rate on the scale, we categorize the promoters as 9 to 10. Anyone who picked 7 to 8 are passive, and anyone who's a detractor is 6 and below, or 0 to 6. And to calculate the overall score of what that is, we basically break it down into the overall. And so it looks at, who are the promoter scores. You look at total responses minus detractors plus passives divided by total responses times 100. And then it switches. So like with detractors, it's promoters total responses minus promoters plus passive divided by total responses times 100. And then with passives, it's total responses minus promoters and detractors and divided by total responses and times 100 as well. So the actual company score will be either between a negative 100 to 100. And if you know anything about politics, the political polls use Net Promoter Score to gauge the popularity of a politician. And usually if they score a 0, that means it's actually pretty good. And if they score anything over 30 and above, that generally means it's good. But you also have to consider your industry, your competition, and your own history. So that is what the score means. So if all customers gave a score lower or equal to 6, then the NPS would be negative 100. And if all customers rated the question with a 9 or 10, the Net Promoter Score would be plus 100. So, ratings, classifies those into these buckets. And then overall, you can track your company score over time. And these scores are really good because you can use them for competitive or industry benchmarks. So NPS can tell you any leading indicators of growth. It measures customer retention and advocacy, and it qualifies customer loyalty because those that do answer 9 or 10, those are the ones that are really your true advocates, and they're very passionate about what you do. And so those are the ones that, if you need references and you need people to give testimonials, they're the first people that I would recommend looking at. What does NPS not do? Or what doesn't NPS do? It doesn't help you understand the individual interactions or events. So when you get a score, it doesn't tell you what happened in order for them to give you that score. So it doesn't really give you the why. So it gives you the foundation of the experience, but then you do need to do some further digging in to figure out, what caused them to give you that NPS. And the other thing is that NPS doesn't accurately predict success. That means that just because they rate you a certain way doesn't mean that it is going to completely change, how how much revenue you're going to make, or how much retention you're going to have, or how much growth potential you're going to have. It just tells you in terms of your brand loyalty, and where you can improve with your satisfaction, because these types of things do matter in terms of, especially with people using, online reviews and things like that. It could affect, potential, business decisions or purchasing decisions that, consumers you're trying to attract are considering. So there's some things that you may want to consider with NPS. Other things you can use with NPS that will be very helpful is that you can use tools like action alerts in the system to track low NPS scores and implement an immediate action. So if someone had a really bad experience and they are scored and said they wouldn't recommend, your product or service, you can be alerted right away and find out who gave you that score and see if there's anything you can do to change their experience for the better. It's always a great thing to do. I think we see that a lot when you use tools like Yelp, which is a online reviews page, and businesses that respond to negative feedback shows to others that they care enough to go in and respond properly. And so that makes a big difference for those that are considering working with them. Other things you can use NPS for is that you can use it to do trend analysis, and you can filter and segment tools to track the NPS score changes and improvements over time. So if you see particular targeted audiences not being satisfied, you can create programs and strategies to boost it, and look at the different frequencies over time to see, if these strategies have benefited and have changed the experience overall. So let's go ahead and talk about an example. This is actually a real life example that I ran with an old company prior to coming to QuestionPro earlier this year. Blue Volt is an e-learning organization in the skilled trades industry, and they run an annual NPS survey to identify growth and improvement opportunities. So they asked their customers, would Blue Volt customers recommend products and solutions to others? And so based off of that, we saw that, out of those that we targeted, 52 of 63 people responded. And from there, the overall NPS was quite high. It's at 56%. We have 40 out of 52 people were promoters, 17 out of 52 were passives, and 5 were detractors. And, overall, I would say, in the business of e-learning and in software, that's a very, very high score. And it's pretty good. And the other thing you can see here is that we can break down and see what particular areas of the business were giving us different kinds of scores. And so we can see, with Blue Volt, their main business lines were manufacturers, distributors, and associations. And so, with the associations or with the distributors, their net promoter score could be quite low. And then for the others, you can see that it's actually quite high. And then in the middle, it was, the association and buying groups. It's a quite high score as well. So you can see that, even though you have a overall score of, 56, you can see that, if you break it down, certain areas of the business scored higher, or certain segments of the business scored higher versus others. So that gave Blue Volt an opportunity to improve certain things. And this is an example of using NPS as a trend analysis over time. And so with Blue Volt, in 2014, they started off with a NPS of 38. And then the following year, it went to 58. And then last year, they went to 56. And so there's a small change. And, being able to do an NPS report or NPS allows businesses to analyze these trends at the 100-foot view and identify historical changes over time. It measures the success of executed plans over the past year. And it's also good for future strategic planning and budgeting. And so, as you can see here, between 2014 and 15, a lot of major changes had happened during that time, including me coming on board, and also, starting a customer success team that helps manage customers on a day-to-day basis, and building a support team and offering extended services in terms of support and hours really increased the NPS the following year in 2016 or 2015. And then in 2016, it dropped slightly because we saw, as you saw on the other slide, there's certain areas of the business that felt neglected versus others. And so we did suffer from that slightly, but it's still a very high score. I mean, again, if you are looking at NPS and overall in general, anytime you score 30 and above, that's pretty darn good. You know, like I said, politicians are only looking for around a 0, and above 0 is fantastic, but usually 0 is great. But in this case here, you know, they are, you know, typically scoring extremely high. And so even though drops are changing and it's small, it's not that bad, but the company certainly saw some areas of improvement so that it can strengthen their partnerships and continue to grow the NPS and use NPS as a metrics to continue to grow their partnerships with their loyal customers. So let's talk about some other things that we have, and I'll go ahead and demo that here in a bit. But the one thing that I'm pretty excited about is that we now have show hide logic that you can apply page breaks to. So that means that, you know, back in the days you had to apply, you had to do like some text subtitles and all this stuff in order to apply page breaks. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just, you know, go in, apply show hide, and then push page breaks wherever you need, and the system will be able to apply the criterias and show hide even with the page breaks as usual. And this is especially useful for those that want to be able to display just one question at a time and allow people to just see what they need to see to answer on one page. And so we'll take a look at what that looks like. Also, if you need to check if your logic is working, then we do have a tool in our system that allows you to validate any branching logic in the system. If there's any issues with it, it will tell you, which is great. And so it's underneath our interface, and you can click on Validate Branching Logic. If there's any problems, it will tell you. So if there's branching logic errors we found, so it will tell you, so a question has a reference to a question that was before itself, branch targets can only go into the forward direction. So it actually tells you what you need to do to fix it. So this error usually can happen. So say, for instance, you created a survey, you applied some logic, but then you're like, oh, well, I want to move some things around, but you have logic in there. And so obviously the logic gets broken, and running this will allow you to check it. So then you can go ahead and clear it and reapply your logic as needed. So we'll jump into that here right now in a live demo. So I am in here. Okay. Oh, it looks like I do have a question here. Fuad had asked, is the NPS data for analysis included in the enterprise license, or is that an additional cost? It is included. So all the data that you have, you can see. So again, it's available with the corporate license and higher. So corporate, team, and enterprise all has NPS. The licenses that don't have it is the free and the professional license. So good question on there. If you have any others, go ahead and post those. Thank you. Let's go ahead and jump in here. And you can see I created just a really quick survey, and these are just some grocery stores in the United States. Which grocery store do you shop at the most? And then I did an NPS for each of those stores. And then in order to apply the logic, for show hide, all I needed to do is go to that actual question template with the NPS select logic, and then after that select the criteria that I wanted to pick, and this can be either a question criteria, system variable, geolocation, etc. And then basically I said if they picked that question and they selected Trader Joe's, then I can either go down to step 2 to show, hide, or do nothing. And so that is what happens there. And I applied that to all of the questions. And then the second thing I did is then I went back to the bottom of the template and applied the page break. So you can apply it or not apply it. And it shows you that show hide logic is enabled. And then you can choose to remove the page break there or not. So that's really simple. So when the idea is when a person is previewing the survey, it will take them directly to what they need, and without having to apply additional page breaks or see questions that are not pertinent to the answers that they had given to you previously. So that is the simplified item there. All right, and so the next thing I want to show you is how to do the validation. And so generally speaking, the validation is one good way to ensure to check whether your logic is done. However, I always recommend to always do a preview of the survey and check it with a group of people that are available to test for you. And so what you can do is basically click interface here next to workspace, and then on the top right, click on more, which is on a preview, and scroll down to validate branching logic. And if there is a item that is totally fine and they don't find any issues with it, then you'll get a message on the top, and I will show it just one more time so you can see it. No branching exceptions found. So then that means that it's good to go, which is great. And then you can then move forward with the survey. But like I said, to be truly on the safe side, preview it. Don't trust this completely because, yes, it didn't check anything, but perhaps maybe the order and the way that you had set it up perhaps isn't the way that you really wanted it to. So it's always good to really test it out just to be on the safe side. But currently it doesn't show anything that's broken, which is great, and then you can move forward. All right, so let me see if we could do a quick preview of the survey itself. Yep, and there you go. And it takes you exactly to where you need to go. If I were to go to Fred Meyers, should go to Fred Meyers. So it only shows exactly what I need to see. And then the responses, after that will be under reports. And then you can also see under, the downloadable options, what type of analytics you can have. So if I were to go ahead and add some test data, which I will go ahead and generate right now under more, generate test responses. Let's see if I can apply some test data and get some example data to take a look at. Okay. Let's see if this works. And this is also a fun way to review the data. Just make sure to remove it before you actually go out and do the real studies. So this is just a fun way to review. And so you'll see here is the net promoter of Trader Joe's. It's got a negative 45. Wow, that's pretty low. Here, and then it breaks down promoters, passives, and detractors, and how many people answered what during that time. And then same thing with Freddy's. They have an even lower score, negative 59. And the breakdown, and then the answers. And then if you have, I believe if you have at least a corporate or higher, you do have access to advanced analytics, and you can click on data segmentation. So if I want to look at, create a new filter for people that are Trader Joe's. And then save this filter, and then I can look at all the responses for those who answered Trader Joe's. So there's 30, and then I can look at this response either as a live dashboard, or I can download the raw data here. You can also apply filters if you like, so that's up to you. But this is a very good tool, and you can continue to build those out for all the different grocery stores, and also be able to apply more actions on over here where you can do like an online comparison report, so you can see side by side how Trader Joe's versus Fred Meyer's does and everything as well. So that's a really great tool. And then, of course, you can always click on Manage Data to download the raw data in Excel or CSV, Charts and Analytics, SPSS, SQL, and XML. So let's see if there's any other questions from the audience regarding what we showed today. So again, I'm very excited to let you know that we do have NPS available for the corporate license now, and then you can get started. And for everyone who's signed up or is interested, I can give you the slides here and also the slides and also the recording, so you can go over this. And we also have some really great information directly on our site. So if you go to questionpro.com/features/net promoter score, you can review all the context information, and it breaks everything down, everything you need to know about Net Promoter to get you started. And it's fantastic for any time-based surveys, for looking at customer satisfaction, for doing brand loyalty, brand awareness. Those are the kinds of things that Net Promoter can be applied. So some people just do Net Promoter, but it can be used in conjunction with other types of surveys as well. So let's check here and see if there's any other questions. And it looks like we do not, so I hope that I have answered your questions so everyone can get started. So let's go ahead and do a quick recap what we learned again. So again, first things, you can now preview question options before upgrading for your license. So if you are considering upgrading, so you can use a conjoint analysis or MaxDiff or Van Westendorp or just anything, or even if you're a professional and you're looking at NPS, then you get a chance to preview what it looks like and then determine, you can talk to someone right away and upgrade your license. 2, NPS is available for corporate license, so you can get started and learn more today on our site. If you like, you just click on that link. And then also you can apply show high logic with page breaks, and also validate any branching options automatically without needing to look at it too closely. But again, we do recommend testing it to ensure that it is in the pattern that you like. And the last thing is, I always like to ask people, what do you want to learn from QuestionPro? We are here to cater to what your needs are, and we've been in the business since 2003, so we work with all sorts of customers globally, doing many, many different kinds of projects, and we're happy to be able to assist you with any custom work that you have, or if you just want to talk to us with any questions you have on a particular item that you or project you're looking to deploy soon, and we're there to help you with that. And we use these training sessions each month to address everything from a solution standpoint, not from just a product standpoint. So you can learn from how our current customers use the system and what our best practices and recommendations. So that's really what K2S is all about, or Keys to Success is about. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can reach me at esther.labiel@questionpro.com, or you can reach me at Twitter. I'm happy to answer there, and hashtag K2SQP. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day.